it would put me where I am and doing what I'm doing. But pretty much I was able to go out and record video with my phone and at a much higher quality level than I would have been able to get at the time with the current GoPro system. Their hardware, everything just wasn't up to the par that I was able to get with, you know, some zip ties, some copper pipes, some suction cups, and an outer box. So, and that, of all things, was developed. This first prototype was developed the day before my 18th birthday. So I took the day off of school and went to the track and whatnot. But you know, I wanted to record that. So that's really when I started. So that was 3-4 years ago now. It's been some time. But moving on. Right after my 18th birthday, everything, you know, finished up with high school and everything, came in and started going to TechWorks right away. Sent out an email, real heavy advertising from their part, got signed up for their Tech Venture program, and went through that whole business class. Now, obviously, we know TechWorks isn't here. Tech Venture is a whole program really wasn't a success. It kind of fell apart, but that's not really part of the point of this. What it did was got me thinking about business, where to go, what to think about, what to start. And at the time, it seemed all good, but through that, I got directed to KES, I guess the advisor for an employee that did TechWorks. His name is Alex Masters. At that time, he was very heavy part of the Entrepreneur Society, and he kind of said, hey, you should come around and whatever. And when I came around, I did a pitch my very first day that I came. I brought in my idea, had CAD models, the whole 9 yards, and really just had this first prototype that I had. And that went through probably 3 or 4 weeks of 2.5 hour meetings of arguing and going over little things, you know, as minute as angles and how does this work and this, that, and the other. But through all of that, I was able to get my first, I guess, grant to go through and start developing. Now, at that time, I thought that I could do a lot more than I could. I thought that I could do manufacturing, and my expectations were not realistic to what it really takes to do this. But out of that, I was able to develop the TrackEye prototype. I still use this in my car, and it still outperforms modern day GoPro stuff. I can throw this on a car, go run out on the track. It'll hold up. The GoPro eventually falls back on itself. Just general designing, and that's a full 3D print. So they are durable. They do hold up and all that. So in terms of being a product and a design, it works really well. This one's designed so it fits the iPhone 3 and 4. Obviously, at that time, they didn't have the 5 and everything, but also through KES was, you know, business advice, how to move forward, how to work on this, and then how to kind of spur and develop growth and move forward in that area. And in terms of TrackEye, I'll get to that and where I'm going with that in a little bit. I haven't gone very far in, I guess, movement point, but I've gained a lot of different information. I've gotten a lot of different, so instead of growing up, I've grown out with it at this point. So here's kind of really the development, and this is where TrackEye kind of takes me to the level of expansion and kind of leading me into what I'm doing for the future. So I had a meeting with WeatherTech. WeatherTech's a big floor mat company. They put floor mats in just about anything. They're top of the line, highest quality product on the market for that. And I kind of talked about licensing with them. So going through, the CEO of that company really liked the product idea. I had pitched it to him a couple times in a couple different various forms. And you know, in terms of that, what I had wasn't really an effective design in terms of manufacturing, going through making tooling, growing and developing to come up with a product market that could change, because obviously cell phones change, hitting larger markets. There just wasn't enough money in it to make it worthwhile. with the design that there was. So in terms of that, the idea was good, the market was there. It was how did I come about it, and also, can you get a patent on it? Those were the big questions, and I couldn't answer all those questions, and I couldn't get the information on all of those things. So that kind of fell apart in terms of TrackEye and that. Now, I still work with the CEO and all of that. We're good friends, and we do stuff, we do racing and all of that. So I still know him, but in terms of this and moving forward, he's got to make smart business decisions to keep his business growing and where it is. And in the past 3 or 4 years, his business has exploded. Doing something like this doesn't necessarily allow for that. So you got to look at the whole picture on that one. Another thing, after the WeatherTech, you regroup and you move forward. So I went through and started looking at how can I manufacture this myself, how can I get this out, and I kind of stumbled upon 3D printing in a manufacturer level form, very high quality, very high tolerance set, and that's kind of where I just stumbled upon EOS, and they basically make SLS and SLM based 3D printing systems, which is using powders and sintering these together using lasers. It's really a very modern manufacturing method. It's very cool, but the thing that you can do is you can do easily customizable production without really any cost inputs. Once you have your equipment, I can upload anything. So in terms of a market expansion, I can make a TrackEye for every phone. As long as I spent the time to put the CAD into it, I could make one. So in terms of that, I looked into that, and the barrier to entry in terms of purchasing the equipment really what held me back on that one. The equipment runs for small size equipment in the $250,000 range all the way up to getting into the $1 million range for plastics, and then in about the $700,000 range for metals. And it really just, in terms of making the money back and being able to have a solid risk investment, it just didn't make sense at the time to come up with the initial capital and be able to sell the units, get the marketing. It just, again, it didn't pan out. So now kind of with this, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and within the past few months I pitched and want again to go ahead and kind of change the design up a little bit, and that's something that I'd been working on for a while, and going through and getting that patented. So I've come up, and there's another company out there called Optrix. They make an iPhone specific mount very similar to the one that I came up with. What they have that's different, it's waterproof, and you could run over it with a truck. So in terms of that, my design basically is very similar to theirs for the new one, but it's universal. I can fit anything in it, which makes it nice. It expands the market to be more than just a specific. It's better for the end user. If they change phones, the product still works, it stays the same. Don't have to think about it. Whatever. So these are things that I've been working on, and with the last pitch that I did, I've been working on going together and starting to put together the initial documents to go get provisional patents on what I'm doing, so I can go ahead and try to go out and license this product again. And actually, as I mentioned GoPro earlier, I'm thinking that I was originally thinking Optrix, but I'm thinking a better decision would be GoPro. More people have heard of GoPro, and they sponsor more bigger and larger events. So to expand their product line into something like this, I think for them would be a good market expansion. It would be something that they can get even more customers in their door using their products. They already have most of the product there. It's just changing the small unit that I have that I would be getting the patent on. And in terms of sales, everything's there. Get it to them, license it, take a royalty on it, and walk away. They do the work, they expand it. But in terms of everything there, the major part, the hard part to get, which is the marketing and all of that, you have to sell to somebody, and they have that. So to sell my product to them gets my product out to the market, even though I wouldn't necessarily make as much money, I then have the resources to go ahead and do other things. Which, with that, why is that not doing what I wanted it to do? Okay, so for that, that moves me into the future. So, as I talked about, getting a patent and licensing. So, that's something that I'm working on right now, and hopefully within the next few months I can have some major headway moving forward with that, start getting licensing agreements put together, and have this where it's an actual product that you can pick up on the shelf. So other things that I'm doing moving forward. I'm working with a person right now, and to have a little bit about this, but we're working on some things in the medical field in terms of wheelchairs and moving forward, and how to make a wheelchair more accessible. And one of our base questions was, how do we make you, one, look as normal as you can be in terms of needing assisting devices, and how can you make the world more accessible to you? And a wheelchair in its basic form gives you the ability to get around and move around, but it really doesn't give you full accessibility. And using these different questions and even going farther beyond to more extremes, I think that with what we're going to be able to do, we're going to be able to design a much better product that fits and works better for the end user, and which really is the whole point. The person using the product is the one that needs it, and if they can't use it, how is it helping them? So going on and asking questions like, okay, I want to fit this in my supercar, that's the question that's going to make the product small enough, usable enough, versus, okay, I need a truck to use this. If you're designing to fit into a truck, you don't have to think about things. There's a lot less to think about. You can way over design, it doesn't matter. Where when you say, okay, I need this to be easy enough to fit in a supercar, you got to think small, you got to make things work a little bit better so that your end user has less to work with and deal with, so they can do those things. Granted, most of your users will not do those things, but it'll make it easier for them for everything else. So they can be more independent, which is the whole goal of having mobility, is to be independent with this. So that's something that I have in development right now. And then a new product. It's back in the automotive industry, and I want to kind of keep this one very vague, I guess. And what I do, it's a new product that I've been working on with somebody that's out of Washington. So we're kind of doing something where we're attacking the wind a little bit, and we're kind of going against your traditional thoughts, again, asking different questions. Typically with what we want to do, you'd be looking at very high-tech, very high-priced supercars, and we're trying to see how can we apply this to your mass-produced, more everyday economy vehicle, to help out the end consumer again. And okay, apparently I can't spell, but we're trying to bring a combination of high-tech with low-tech. So with this project we've gotten data acquisition units, and to move forward, start grabbing some data so we can try to develop formulas and equations to better understand how the simulations of what we're going to do relate to real-life applications. So that's something that's currently in the works, and as I get more information and as we get farther along in this project, I will be more than happy to share more, but at this point it's not at a point to be, we're still at a very beginning stage fundamentally, but we have a very good idea of where we want to go, and we're kind of taking a look at other companies and how they've gotten their products, which would be considered more aftermarket, into being an OEM product. So those are things that we're thinking about, and how to move forward, and it's how do you take and convince and sell to a large automotive manufacturer that what you're doing will assist them and be good for their end user. So adding the extra cost saves their end user, so they'll have better sales. So that's really going to be the main goal of this product once it's developed and once it's tested. So with this one, this will probably be about a year out in terms of actually coming up with some good data to where we can prototype and move forward from that. But in terms of how that's moving forward, and we're discussing these other options of how to sell and how to develop and what the best way to develop to be the most profitable is. And sometimes you can't do the most fun things all the time. You can't play with the super fast stuff. You have to come down and work with what everybody has access to, so you can make the money, so you can play with the one or two fast things. So that's definitely something. You can't always have the most fun in the world all the time. You have to work where the money is in a lot of these cases. So, and that is what I have for this, but I am going to head over here and pick one of these. I want to kind of show everybody a little bit about what TrackEye does. Hey Don, can you unmute the whole system? Yeah. There we go. This is a slightly modified version of TrackEye that I just put in, but this is out. This is a Ferrari Challenge race car. This is what TrackEye does, and this is what it can come up with. And this is about the equivalent of what you can actually get on the market with these other products. So, and again, this one's slightly modified. I was doing some testing on trying to reduce some surface area on parts. So this isn't the best unit in the world, but the main unit that I have mounted in a different car in a little bit more permanent configuration. So everybody can kind of see what TrackEye is, what I do with it, and you do get to have some fun when you do some of these products. So I do get to go out and spend some time on the track. This is me driving, so it does allow you to get some access to some pretty cool stuff occasionally when you do get into this and when you get into some of these fun products. But I would say overall this is a pretty low-tech product that, other than manufacturing, doesn't really require a whole lot. So, unfortunately this one has the mirror right in the way, but I will pause that and I will let Don take back over, because that's really what I have. And I guess my biggest advice is it does take time and things do change. I thought that the TrackEye was gonna be what I would be working on for the next however many years, and as you can see, I've got 2 or 3 other projects, and I'm kind of putting this on the back burner in terms of what I'm gonna be doing with it. I want it out already, and you can't always have everything that you want in the way that you want it. You have to figure out how to adapt and work with it, and that's kind of the key to being an entrepreneur in this. You got to look at what makes the most sense. Unfortunately, you can get caught up in the passion of this is how I really want to do it, but sometimes you do have to take that step back and look at here's how it has to be done, which isn't always the way you want it to be done. But as long as you can get out what you were intended to get out, and you do it in a way that doesn't, hurt you or hurt your customers, that's how it needs to be done. And in future products, once you've been working, moving forward, then you can start saying, you know what, no, we're going to do it this way, when you have the funds to throw at it. It really does take time to build up. So, that's all I have. So.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah, you will definitely benefit from the time together.
Yes.
So that's kind of what we're here for, is we're here to help you. You're gonna fail, but depending on how much you know going into it, you can fail less. So we're here to help you fail less. And get what you want soon.
Actually, we're here to help you hurry up and fail.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that too, that
The
too.
quicker you figure out how not to
That's
do
what
it.
this society needs.
Well, yeah,
For
but
you guys not to stop waiting for the perfect idea. Just
I
grab
failed 3 or
something
4
and do
times on one
something.
product.
And fail.
yeah,
That's the best place to fail.
yeah, you pretty much just gotta, I don't know. If you haven't started a company or haven't played around with your ideas, it may seem like, oh, that's dangerous, I'm not gonna do it. Well, now's the best time to do it. Now is the safest time because you're still in school. When you get out in the real world, it's not quite so safe anymore. So yeah, we encourage you all to leap,
Hurry up and fail.
blindly leap, start failing.
Yeah. And not everything requires a ton of money to get into, either to get into and fail and try to fail. There's certain things obviously that you have to put more initial investment into up front, but there are other ideas that you don't need to, or if you try to think out of the box a little bit, you can take something that typically would, take hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop and get close, to try to get that investment. So try to simulate and come up with something beforehand that you can really just spend a lot of time on your computer and play around with. So you've got a lot of time investment, and that's worth just as much as dollar investment.
And the amount that your network is like directly proportional to how much it's going to cost you to make it happen. So, yeah, so we're well networked also. All right, that's pretty much about all we have for tonight. I was going to have another kid come in and speak. A friend of mine, he's moving down south this weekend, down to Indiana, but he's got a skating company. He didn't go to college. He started this just out of high school, and now he travels the world with it. And he's my age. But yeah, he would have been an interesting individual for you to meet. But he's got something up tonight. So that's about it. I guess before 6th week, if you want funding this term, you need to make your first presentation. So we just kind of want to get those who want to present this term to pull things together. So all right, that's about it. Thanks. Thanks for coming. So mingle.